Welcome to 1 Minute to Midnight. I'm Wilfred Cunningham. At the very end of 2013 and the beginning of 2014, Fallujah, a centrally located city in Iraq on the Euphrates River, was overtaken by several groups, including ISIS, or Islamic State. After occupying the city for 2.5 years, ISIS have finally been pushed out by Iraqi government forces, who have reclaimed one of the extreme Salafi group's first territorial victories. On the 30th of December 2013, widespread violence in Al-Anbar province erupted after police cleared out a Sunni protest camp, in which at least 13 protesters were killed. The protesters had been demonstrating against what they saw as the marginalization of Sunnis by Iraq's Shia-led government, a status quo that was brought about by the US-led invasion in 2003, and shift of power from previous dictator Saddam Hussein's favouring of fellow Sunnis, who at the time made up around 20% of Iraq's population, although that proportion changes depending on the source and the time. Sunni cleric Sheikh Abdul Malik al-Sadi, who had called on protesters to remain peaceful, urged Sunni ministers, parliament members, and local officers to resign and boycott the political process in response to the clearances. Many did so, and over the next 4 days violence erupted across the province, with groups affiliated to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, other militias, and tribal groups wresting the city from the government. This is important to note, as ISIS did not take Fallujah alone, and did not take Fallujah with the cooperation of others. This state of affairs appears to have been maintained through the 2.5-year occupation, although details, such as who controlled certain areas, are unclear. But it does seem that ISIS never held Fallujah in its entirety, and was not working with other groups who held neighbourhoods against both them and the government. The leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, cut relations with ISIS in early February 2014, in a move that has been speculated to have been motivated by Al-Qaeda General Command's focus on overthrowing Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and frustration with ISIS for exasperating inter-rebel fighting, and alienating potential allies with its brutal persecution of other Muslims, both Sunni and Shia. Certainly ISIS's occupation of Fallujah has been reported as being cruel and bloody. They are credited with closing the gates of the Nuaymiyah Dam in Fallujah in 2014, resulting in the flooding of surrounding regions and displacement of people there, while water supply was cut to the Shia-dominated south. On the 16th of December 2014, Iraq's Ministry of Human Rights stated that at least 150 women who refused to marry ISIS soldiers were executed in or around Fallujah. ISIS have been documented killing and torturing others for failure to follow their strict laws, but it is also worth noting, for the sake of fact, that in Fallujah and Ramadi, the capital of Anbar province that was seized by ISIS from the 15th to the 17th of May 2015, ISIS have restored power and medical services, which have reportedly been absent since those cities were controlled by the Iraqi government, perhaps more of a testament to government failings rather than ISIS competency. Such failings were perhaps one reason for local support of ISIS, support that has dwindled since the beginning of the Anbar offensive on the 13th of July 2015, which is an ongoing operation with the aim of recapturing all of ISIS's territorial gains in the province. On December 2015, the Iraqi government retook Ramadi from ISIS, who left the city in ruins, with between 80 and 90% of buildings destroyed or badly damaged. The retaking of Ramadi did, however, cut off Fallujah, making it difficult, if not completely impossible, for ISIS to resupply, but also raising concerns that the 30,000 civilians trapped in Fallujah could face starvation. The retaking of Ramadi opened up the retaking of Fallujah, and before Ramadi was fully cleared, the siege of Fallujah began on the 2nd of February 2016. Ramadi was taken by Iraqi forces around this time, but fighting continued through much of February. A revolt by Sunni tribesmen on the 18th of February was perhaps one of the first signs that ISIS regional control was disintegrating, with tribesmen killing at least 10 ISIS fighters and burning a district headquarters. This local rebellion was, however, contained, and on the 21st of February, ISIS detained between 150 and 200 men thought to have been involved. What happened to them is unclear. Towards the end of February and through March, ISIS fighters began fleeing the city, and by around the 4th of May, Iraqi government forces' control had extended to 3 kilometers south of Fallujah, and some parts of the city's outskirts in other areas. On the 5th of May, it was reported by Iraqi news that ISIS members had fired on each other, killing 10, in a dispute over money. On the 22nd of May, the Iraqi army released a statement making it clear that they were about to attempt to retake the city from ISIS, and asked residents of Fallujah to leave the area through secured routes, adding that those unable to move should raise white flags on top of their roofs. In response, ISIS warned the population of Fallujah that anyone attempting to escape, or with a white flag, would be executed. What is often referred to as the Third Battle of Fallujah began proper on the 23rd of May, with Iraqi government forces constricting ISIS control and pushing them back into the city centre, before effectively cutting their positions in the southeast into 2 halves on the 25th of May. Government progress was steady but slow during June, until the 17th, when they quickly retook a number of neighbourhoods and the city's government buildings, seemingly as organised opposition collapsed. Although some fighting is still being reported, and no doubt some elements of ISIS remain, it seems as though the Iraqi army have decisively defeated ISIS in Fallujah, or are on the cusp of doing so totally. The loss of Fallujah is an important blow to ISIS. It was the first Iraqi city where they established their control, and the government's victory denies them access to its infrastructure and its civilian population. However, since January 2014, most of the city's population has become displaced, with an estimated 80,000 people leaving Fallujah since the start of the battle to take it. With a normal population of around 300,000, it seems very few have been able to remain, and the Iraqi government now faces a humanitarian crisis because of the number of displaced people without access to food or adequate shelter. On the 17th of June, Director of the CIA, the United States Central Intelligence Agency, John Brennan, told the US Congress that there were still between 18 to 22,000 ISIS fighters inside Iraq and Syria. With the loss of territory and mounting military pressures, ISIS may find it more difficult than before to replenish its active manpower, as previous estimates from the CIA in 2016 put the number at between 19 to 25,000. Despite the taking of Fallujah, ISIS still hold Mosul, which, with an estimated usual greater population of 1.75 million, will likely be much more difficult to take. Taking Mosul, ISIS's economic power base, could take 30,000 troops. Planned offensives have repeatedly been delayed, and it seems as though it may be some time before an assault on the city can begin. What may turn out to be bloody fighting could, however, be ISIS's last stand. So, until next time, goodbye, and try to remain calm.